Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of football locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The Full Time podcast is presented and powered by 91 Network. You are tuning in to Season 6, Episode 29 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Full Time Podcast is also sponsored by Sioux Sports. To check out Sioux Sports and all of their articles, announcements, and streaming platforms, visit siouxsports.com, as well as Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Recordings of Full Time, powered by 91 Network, occur weekly or bi-weekly on YouTube and Podbean. If you're listening to today's podcast, make sure to subscribe to 91 Network so you can catch us every time we upload content right here on the Full Time Podcast. Folks, we welcome you back to Full Time, where we get to discuss the beautiful game. G, how are you this evening, my friend?
I'm doing well. We had some technical issues this morning, so I apologize to anyone watching this. My camera quality is not the greatest, but we managed to figure out a way to get an episode recorded here. So I am doing well as long as I'm sitting here chatting with you. Scarps, how you doing?
I agree with that 100%. Whether it's 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. like it is here and now, I'm always excited to be here with you talking the beautiful game. In today's show, we will discuss Europe's Big Five and the Champions League. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on all platforms of 91 Network. And without further ado, Gitano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We got today's show started with Europe's Big Five, and we will begin today in the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich are champions of Germany for a second year in a row. They have won the league with 4 games to spare. They currently have 79 points, which far outweighs second place Dortmund, who have 64 points with just 4 games to go. Bayern have already eclipsed the all-time single-season goal record by a team in the competition. They currently have an astonishing 109 goals and counting, still again 4 games to go to bolster that all the more. And assuming Bayern win their final 4 games, they will also capture the honor of having the all-time single-season points total from a team in the Bundesliga. Gitano, an absolutely outstanding season in the Bundesliga from Bayern Munich, and it's still not even over for them yet. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, the Bundesliga is so tough. The kind of the upper mid table is so tough. And we've seen them, like a lot of teams in Germany, do well in Europe recently. They're always kind of contending. So for Bayern to do what they have done this season, which is just, and I don't even think saying steamroll everyone is like doing it enough justice. Like it's this combination of brute force, but also like tactical, near genius from Vincent Kompany. Players like Harry Kane firing on all cylinders, playing like he's like 2017, 2018 Harry Kane all over again. Just insane stuff. And obviously, yes, they spent a lot of money in the transfer market, but they spent it well. You look at the players they brought in: Luis Diaz, Elise, like really just again, they probably could have won the Bundesliga without these players, but the way that they added to their squad and what those new players brought in, just phenomenal stuff. And really all you can say is just congratulations. They absolutely dominated the Bundesliga this year, broke countless records, still on pace to break more records, like you mentioned. It's just been a phenomenal season for them.
Yeah, phenomenal is the right word to use. They've been astonishing to watch. And again, their work is far from done because they've got European hopes and dreams that we're going to talk about later in this episode. But yeah, as it pertains to their domestic competition, just absolutely sensational. So a huge tip of the cap to them, Bayern Munich, the champions of Germany, and rightly so. Moving over to the best title race in Europe, it is the English Premier League that keeps us wanting more as the title race heats up. As of last week, it was the first time since the opening weekend of the Premier League season that Manchester City moved to the top of the table. As of today, because Arsenal did get to play as Manchester City had FA Cup commitments, Arsenal did move back to the top of the table, but Manchester City currently has one game in hand. By the time that Arsenal kicks a ball one more time against Fulham, Manchester City will have 2 games in hand, an unbelievable title race at this moment in time. Only, by the way, as of last week, separated by goals scored, not even goal difference. Gitano, there was that change at the top of the table amidst Manchester City, who had that, or I guess are in that recent surge, really. So the title race hasn't been this close all season. Gitano, I'll pass it over to you for your thoughts here, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's what happens to a Pep Guardiola team in kind of March, April is they just crank it up, not even to 11 or 12, but to 13 or 14. The form we've seen from City across all competitions for the past, I want to say about 6 weeks now, has just been top class. Getting some players back healthy has been huge. Obviously, Rodri has been massive, but even his absence yesterday or earlier this afternoon, Nico Gonzalez has been playing great. The goals are being spread evenly, which is when you have Erling Haaland, not always an ideal thing. You'd like him to score more, but as long as the ball's going in the net, I don't think any City fan really cares who's putting it in. And yeah, it's just it's that pack mentality, that pack hunting mentality that they've got. That they are just, they closed the gap now on Arsenal. Got the huge win at the Etihad. That goal by Ryan Cherky might be one of my favorite goals ever scored. And I don't want to say it, but I want to say that the guys on the overlap. I think that's the one with like Keane and Neville and all them, right? It's the overlap. I always get them confused. They were mentioning they're like, how many players in the world have like that such close control to move the ball just like millimeters away from guys' feet, and through into then slotted into the corner. But then also when you look at the players that Pep has trusted with that kind of free roaming attacking role in his 15-ish year career as a manager, very few players. At City it's really only been KDB. At Bayern it was Thomas Muller, and at Barcelona it was Lionel Messi, and now Ryan Cherky has kind of earned that through this season and the work he's put in. He's just been phenomenal, and I think he was the first player in the Prem to 10 goals and 10 assists this season. And it's definitely within a shout for player of the season. He's been a huge part of our recent success. But on the other side, Arsenal is also a really fantastic team in Champions League semi-final. Definitely not playing maybe their quote-unquote best football. But like we've talked about all the time, like at this point of the season, it really doesn't matter how you're getting the results you need, as long as you're getting them. So I definitely think, not that we thought this title race was ever going to not be very good. We always kind of knew City were going to turn it up a little bit. But yeah, it's already, with a handful of games already kind of played in kind of the run in, and with still a handful left. I think it's been one of my favorite title races in a very long time, and I'm very excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, you said so many clever things there. I'll just ask you a quick question before I move on to my bit here for the title race. David Silva, free role in Manchester City, would you say at any point in time, or not so much?
Not so much under Pep. I would say definitely
Okay.
like under Mancini and under Pellegrini, he had a little more just freedom to do what he wanted. But with Pep, him and De Bruyne were the double eights. There with Fernandinho sitting behind them, and it was a lot more. I think David Silva, as kind of the elder of the two, between him and Kevin De Bruyne, kind of just took on the responsibility of like being a little more positionally sound, whereas KDB was allowed to just kind of do what he wanted. Technically, David Silva's still miles clear of Ryan Cherky. I'm not even going to make that comparison. But yeah, David Silva, I don't think quite had that free roaming role. He was a lot more structured, and as kind of a Spanish player, grew up playing like Spanish football, kind of understood that from Guardiola a little bit better. So yeah, I think not a terrible shout, but yeah, he just and that's how I feel about it. Like people could probably argue with me about it, but I felt that he always kind of stuck a little more positionally, and then KDB just kind of did his thing.
You would definitely know more than most. I can definitely say that. On this title race, Gitano, I mean, some people have called it a 5 game shootout. I don't know if I necessarily see it that way, because that assumes that both teams are going to win all 5 games, which is possible. But at the same time, I think it's just a 1 game at a time approach. Arsenal did beat Newcastle today 1-0. Arsenal should have scored a heck of a lot more and should have just shot a lot more. It was very frustrating to watch. I don't know why it's been coached out of the game to not shoot outside the box. like the one goal that Arsenal scored today, they scored from outside the box thanks to Eberechi Eze. So I do want to see a little bit more attacking prowess from Arsenal. But, you take a look at this table right now, Gitano. Arsenal has, as I said, played one more game than Manchester City. They've got 73 points, Arsenal does, and a plus 38 goal difference. Manchester City has 70 points, but again, one less game played. They have a plus 37 goal difference. So again, is it reasonable to say that this is going to go down to the final match day? More than likely. But again, you can only take things one game at a time. Both teams, by the way, are in separate competitions. We're going to talk about it a little bit later with Arsenal in the Champions League, FA Cup with Manchester City, which we're going to get to in our next episode of Full Time. But again, this title race is true and well on. Like you said, we always knew it was going to be really good. Did we think it was going to be this close, this tight? Perhaps not, but we're in this position now, and it's head to head, and we'll see what happens as the run in true and well continues. And as for those teams hunting the Champions League places, they will be delighted to know that for yet another season, based on the Champions League coefficient table and point system, that the Premier League will be allocated 5 spots in next season's Champions League, purely based on how teams finish in league play. If Arsenal happens to win the Champions League, that those 5 spots will move up to 6. But at this moment in time, you got Manchester United, Liverpool, and Aston Villa currently making up those spots. Gitano, is it fair to say that those 3 teams likely to stay in there? The next best team, I suppose, is Brighton, who have 50 points. I know anything can happen, but do you like Manchester United, Liverpool, and Aston Villa to stay and hang in there?
Do I personally like them staying in there? Not particularly. I have no issue with Villa staying in there, but I would rather not see United or Liverpool, especially. And we've discussed this a couple times. Like, just not sure how United end up in third for how terrible they've been. And for how great we talk about like the depth of the top teams in the Premier League, somehow they end up, in an okay spot to end the season. I don't ever understand that. But yeah, do I think so? With Brighton being 8 points behind, do I think there's an 8-point swing somewhere? With these teams, no, I don't think so. I think maybe between the 3 teams they'll maybe change positions. Like United might not finish third, Liverpool might not finish fourth, Villa or fifth. But I think like those 3 teams will be qualifying for the Champions League.
Yeah, and gotta say that like Aston Villa today were in 4th. They lost their game, they dropped down to 5th. But had they won it, they could have jumped up to 3rd. So again, they probably will finish in that top 5, but in what order it is yet to be determined. And Gitano, we got to look at the relegation zone. It has been confirmed that both Wolves and Burnley are relegated to the Championship for next season. They can no longer attain enough points to remain in the Premier League. Before we get to the rest of the relegation zone discussion, let's first have our say on both Wolves and Burnley, who see their time in the Premier League come to its inevitable end.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves have been rooted to the bottom of the Premier League table from before a ball was kicked this season. They lost their first game of the season to Man City 4-0 and have been in 20th place ever since. I think that just, kind of speaks for itself in the season that they had. Terrible business in the summer. Actually, they sold well in the summer, did not buy well in the summer. Didn't bring in proper recruitment in January to try and reinforce to stay in the Premier League, so really no surprise that they're going down. Burnley, I do feel a little bad for. They're not quite there yet. We saw under Vincent Company a couple years ago, they kind of yo-yoed a little bit, but you could see the foundations were being built. And I do think Burnley were okay this season, but I just don't think that squad is quite ready to stay in the Premier League. I think another season or 2 in the Championship, they might yo-yo maybe once or twice more before they kind of solidify themselves. But I think this is definitely less hard on Burnley, just kind of given their position. We know the ownership. They talked under Vincent Company when he got relegated that they were going to stick with him. They see the vision. And I know that Vincent Company's not there anymore, but I think that ownership group has the right mentality of this isn't going to be kind of a one and done type deal. So it sucks to see them go down, but I do think they'll be back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I believe it's the last 4 seasons they've come up and down 3 times or something like that. So, the definition of a yo-yo club. So you do kind of feel for Burnley, but it's interesting because last season in the Championship, they set a record for the amount of goals conceded, or the fewest amount of goals conceded. And this year so far in the Premier League, they have the most goals conceded in the league. So it kind of goes from one to the other, which shows the sort of the drop and the rise in the standard between the Championship and the Premier League, of course. And then as it pertains to Wolves, I don't like to call for a team's downfall. In fact, it actually kind of bothers me. But when we did our preseason show, before the Premier League started, I said that I thought Wolves were going to go down because of how much they lost this summer, to your point, but also to your point, how few and how little they brought in to replace the people that they lost. I just figured it was going to be destined for disaster. So unfortunately, Wolves and Burnley go down, but perhaps in the not so distant future, maybe they will come back up. And in the final, yet to be determined relegation spot, it currently is Tottenham Hotspur, who sit in there with, at this moment in time, 34 points. They did get their first win of 2026 today, if you could believe that. West Ham, just outside of the drop zone, they also won today. They have 36 points. So, Gitano, it does appear like Nottingham Forest and Leeds, that it does appear as though they will be safe. But what is more apparent right now, Gitano, is that final place for the relegation. It could very well go down to the final match day of the season. Currently Tottenham in it. It could end up being West Ham. What are you saying here?
Yeah, definitely agree that Forest and Leeds have played their way out of it. And we kind of talked about this not too recently, but a little while ago, saying that we thought that there was just kind of way too much quality between those two teams to really get sucked into the dogfight. And that it was kind of always going to be a West Ham Spurs battle. So I'm not surprised to see both those teams kind of clawing away. Not that they're, miles clear yet, but barring absolute disaster, they should be fine. And then, yeah, I mean, what you just said kind of speaks for the whole situation. Spurs picking up their first win of the calendar year in the Premier League against Wolves. Shock. Um, I mean, yeah, they've been awful. De Zerbi is now in, and that's what, their third manager of the season.
Yep.
Yeah,
5-year deal, by the way. He's in it for the long haul, so it seems.
yeah, and I mean, insane because he's a good manager, but you also
Yep.
know that his wages are going to be absolutely massive, and if Spurs end up in the championship, you are either going to be paying him a ton of money to hopefully come right back up, or you're going to sack him and have to buy him out of that deal and pay him that plus another manager. So it's going to be a very, very interesting situation there. Um, do I think that De Zerbi, with a handful of games, is going to get them enough of a swing to get out of the relegation zone? I don't know. That team is, I mean, they're physically fragile, they're mentally fragile. I don't know if any manager in the world could. You could pool all of the managers in the world together, and I don't think they could sort Spurs out right now. But at the same time, West Ham have also just been a disaster this season, really doing themselves no favor at any point in the season. Not like a bad summer, but not a good summer. Again, not a bad January, but not a good one. Really just kind of didn't bring in enough reinforcements. So yeah, I still think with a couple points between it, it's going to probably go to the last day of the season. And you said you don't want to see a club's downfall. You don't talk about wanting club's downfall, but like Spurs going down would be pretty incredible, don't you think?
They're the exception to all negative rules. So, yes, I agree with that. All I got to say on West Ham, just kind of shifting away from Spurs for a second, if not for Jared Bowen, I mean, my God, they'd be right there with Burnley and Wolves, I think, Catano, truly.
Oh yeah, and I mean if they go down, I know they're not going to get like market value for him, but like there's no way Jared Bowen goes to the championship. I think almost any team in the Premier League, like City included, Arsenal included,
Oh, yeah.
everyone would love to have Jared Bowen in their attack. Obviously, plus the fact that he's English helps their homegrown quota, but like a phenomenal player.
Yep. And what we got to say, too, is that the top of the table is true and well where it's at, but the bottom of the table is also where we will have to most definitely keep an eye. Out in City A, it is Inter who holds a 9-point lead at the top of the table with a game in hand. Second place is Napoli, Milan in third, and Juventus in fourth. Gee, it's just a matter of time for Inter, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean the game in hand is just icing on the cake for them as well. Potentially going 12 points clear of Napoli would, I think, basically, it might not mathematically seal the deal, but in every other sense would seal the deal. They've been phenomenal this season. But really, when I look at Serie A, like my biggest thing is like kind of all of the top teams are in the top five, and it's not. I have no preference in Serie A. You've seen me wear a couple different Serie A jerseys. I have no favorites, but just as a neutral to like look at the table and see Inter, Napoli, Milan, Juve, and Roma all in the top five. It's a nice thing to see, and especially when Inter only really kind of recently started running away with it. It was a pretty close title race between them and Napoli for most of the season. So it's just a very, very fun and good season in Serie A.
Yeah, and at some point, Inter will probably close the deal. But up until maybe about 3 weeks ago, to your point, when we previously discussed Europe's Big Five, that's when that gap started to widen. But yeah, it's nice to see the big names and the big teams in the top five fighting for those places, probably where Italian football should be. Spain's La Liga sees Barcelona atop of the table with 85 points. And, well, they did have a game in hand up until today when they used that game in hand to go 11 points clear of Real Madrid, who have 74 points. Villarreal is in third with 62 points, and Atletico Madrid is in fourth with 60 points. Gee, it's basically a carbon copy from City A. It's just a matter of time for Barcelona as well, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like looking at the Serie A, or sorry, the La Liga table, the bigger star for me is Sevilla sitting in a relegation battle right now. Still a point away from safety, but still with 6 games left, it's definitely not where anyone would have expected them to be at the beginning of the season.
No, absolutely not. Always been a European contender, and again, a foregone conclusion more than likely that Barcelona is going to win. But you just can't imagine Sevilla dropping down. So just like we were doing in the Premier League with the relegation battle, kind of have to keep a close eye there because that is a massive club who we would never think would drop. And in France's Ligue, the title race remains on, but it does tip in the favor of PSG. They've got 69 points in first place. They used their game in hand today to stretch that lead from 3 points to 6. Lens is in second with 63 points, and Lyon is in third. Gitano, PSG have their sights set on domestic and European glory, again, as we're going to talk about here shortly in our episode. Do you think that PSG is going to get the league over the line here against a Lens team who I think is desperate to probably try and dethrone them, Gitano?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably the second tightest title race we've got going on right now. I mean, really, with Serie A and La Liga basically wrapped up, the Bundesliga already wrapped up. And it's like pretty doable. It's only a 6 point swing, 4 games left for each team. Definitely doable. We've seen this PSG drop points recently, losing to Lyon. So like they're not this invincible juggernaut that we kind of expect them to be. So I definitely think that there is a possibility it happens. Do I think it's likely? Probably not. I think they can they might not go perfect those last couple of games, but I think they'll rack up enough points to see it over the line.
Yeah, and I think maybe we can make an argument that if it was a 38-game season out in France like it used to be, maybe we could see something to that effect. But with just 4 games left to go, I'm more on your side here. I think that it's probably not going to be for Lens, but you never know. Anything can happen. PSG could slip up, even though it's not particularly likely. Moving along, it is the Champions League that is prepped and ready to go for its semifinals in the not-too-distant future. The final 4 teams are set to battle it out to see who can get into the Champions League final. Exciting times, my friend.
Absolutely. And not that past seasons have been bad, but when you look at kind of the outright quality of player and team left in the competition, PSG, Bayern, Atletico, and Arsenal, like 4 of the absolute best teams, loaded some of the best players on the planet. Really just super excited as a neutral to be watching these games. Well, not quite a neutral, but as a mostly neutral to be watching these games. I'm super duper excited for them.
Yeah, I mean, again, to your point, when you take a look at the quality of the teams, the quality of the players, the quality of the clubs, you can't not be excited, even if it's your rivals and things like that. It is the highest display that we can see in the Champions League. So, Gitano, we're going to go into previewing this first semifinal, which will be played between PSG and Bayern Munich. Gitano, we've got the defending champions of this competition in PSG going up against a team who probably has looked one of the best, if not the best, amongst all European competition this season in Bayern Munich. So, Gitano, I think that this could potentially be one of the best Champions League fixtures and ties perhaps of all time. How do you foresee this tie playing out, and who is going to the Champions League final?
So first things first, I think whoever wins the semifinal is going to win the Champions League this year.
Okay.
I think they are the 2 best teams in the competition. I would have said this at the beginning of the season. I would have said it at any point in the season. I'll say it right now. Either PSG or Bayern Munich are going to win the Champions League this year. Which one? I I've been thinking about this all week, knowing we were going to record today, and every day I wake up with a different answer in my head. Like it's so close. The squads are just absolutely loaded with quality, front to back, top to bottom. The benches, the reserves, the youth academies, they are just loaded. Um, so for me, it's so tough. I think I think the margins are so fine that I really think the biggest difference is going to be the quality of goalkeeper in net. I think having Manuel Neuer, even at this age and at this point of his career, I think he's still one of the better goalies in the world. The experience he has, commanding that back line and that defense. With PSG having Safanov or Chevalier in net, I just think that there's such a massive drop off between them or Neuer. And that's how like fine the margins are for me, is that we're talking like picking positions apart. Um, I definitely will see this. I can see this tie going into extra time or penalties at the end. To me, that's almost guaranteed. Um, but like defensively, the both teams are so solid. Their transition games are incredible. The midfields are phenomenal. The attack is just super hyper loaded. They are. It is some of the best attacking talent in the world going head to head. Yeah, I'm so excited as a neutral to watch this. And I know we've talked about we can't watch them live, but I will do everything in my power to if I can catch 5-10 minutes of these
Yeah.
games, I will be doing it. I am that excited for it. But yeah, by the slimmest, tiniest margins, I'm gonna take Bayern Munich. Um, but yeah, I really like if PSG go through, I won't be shocked at all. Really, the only thing that would shock me would be a blowout one way or the other. I expect it to be super close. The talent level is pretty even across the pitch. So yeah, I think Bayern are just gonna nick it. And like I said, like really only the goalkeeping is the only thing that I can like kind of separate them a little bit, and I think that'll make the difference.
Well, you started your sort of statement there with waking up every day this week thinking, I don't know if it's going to be Bayern, I don't know if it's going to be PSG. I'm in the exact same boat, and I have been in the exact same boat, so I couldn't agree more with that. And I think truly and honestly, if you flipped a coin, that would probably best determine who's going to win this because, again, this has the potential to be one of the best ties maybe that we've ever seen in this competition with the best quality, two amazing managers, two massive clubs with not just recent success, but historical success. So, Gitana, you're going Bayern. In the past when we've done this and we've been doing this for years now, I've always kind of gone against PSG because they've, for lack of a better term, haven't done particularly well in this competition when the going got tough. Last season they certainly did, and they put all of that sort of they removed all doubt, if you want to say. And for me, I think you kind of have to respect the champion, and you have to look at it and think to yourself, well, you're only going to go against them when you think that, or when you know that they've actually been dethroned. So until that happens, I am going to go with PSG. I am a little bit different to you, though. I'm not necessarily certain that the team who wins this tie is going to win the Champions League. But what I will say is that whoever wins this tie, whether it is Bayern or PSG, I do believe that they will be strong favorites. But Gitano, I am going to go with PSG. And in the other semifinal, it will be Atletico Madrid taking on Arsenal to see who can get into the final spot there of this competition. That, of course, being the Champions League final. Gee, this game has this tie, I should say, not this game. This tie should has tactical nous and prowess written all over it. What can we expect from this tie, and who do you have as winning it and getting to the Champions League final?
So as usual, when it comes to Arsenal, I'll kind of keep it brief and let you, discuss your team. But yeah, I think the tactical side of this tie is going to be really interesting to watch as a mostly neutral. Um, I think with Simeone and Arteta, both kind of defense first managers, um, I think it's going to be a really interesting battle of how they're going to try and break each other down. And I really think the big difference for me. I think Atletico are going to win this. And I think the big difference is going to be just the outright offensive firepower they do have. Julian Alvarez and Alexander Sorloth specifically are just absolute game breakers in Europe. Julian Alvarez has a Champions League already under his belt and was a key player for City in doing that. And I think when it kind of comes down to, hey, like in the 90th minute, you need someone to pop up with a big goal. I think those are the guys to do it. Arsenal picking up a couple injuries today with Eze and Havertz going out. We don't know how long they're going to be, if they're going to be long-term things, but if they're not there, I think that significantly reduces the amount of kind of attacking power you guys have. And when I look at, just like I said, just difference makers, I don't see Arsenal having that, where I see Atletico Madrid having that. And I think that's going to be the big difference. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch. I think it'll be a super, super tight tactical defensive battle. And I think it might just be kind of a tie where there's only 1 or 2 goals in it. And I just think a player like a Julian Alvarez was made for a moment like this. I think he's going to come up with a big goal or 2 for Atletico here and send them to the final.
It's interesting because if you ask me who I have more faith in offensively, I'm going to say Atletico Madrid. I don't mind saying that. But who do I have more faith in defensively? And especially if you've taken a look at this competition, I would say Arsenal, just based on the amount of goals conceded, the defensive structure and stability, albeit Atletico is one of the best defensive teams in the world. They have shown some frailties. I don't really know where Arsenal's goals are going to come from. I know that there's going to be significant film study and meetings amongst coaching staff with Arsenal and things like that of how they're going to try and break down Atletico, albeit it's going to be incredibly hard. If Arsenal can find a way to do that, and if somebody such as Bukayo Saka, Victor Gyökeres, Gabriel Martinelli, if somebody can just find a way to put the ball in the back of the net, or even if it's from an unlikely source, maybe a Martin Zubamendi, a defender, if we can get back to scoring set-piece goals, which we really have gone away from, that's kind of phased itself out. If Arsenal can figure out a way to just get a few, I think that might just be enough to beat Atletico, because I think Arsenal defensively are the better team. So to your point, it's going to be close. Can't say I agree more anymore with that. I think it definitely will be a tight affair, but I have Arsenal just edging it and getting to the Champions League final. So Gitano, we go complete opposites, which is, again, that's totally cool, totally fine. You got Bayern and Atletico to get to the Champions League final. I am taking PSG and Arsenal. A reminder to our listeners that the Champions League semifinals will be played over 2 legs. The first leg of games will be played on April 28th and 29th. The second leg of games will be played on May 5th and May 6th. In our next episode, or in a future episode, I should say, of Full Time, we'll recap these ties for you all. Gitano, do these semifinals for you have the potential to be some of the best maybe that we've ever seen?
Definitely the PSG Bayern one for sure. I could probably count on, I could lose a couple fingers and count on one hand how many Champions League semifinals I've been this excited for. Arsenal Atletico, it's kind of it's a different kind of exciting. I'm excited for the tactical battle. I'm excited to see how somebody wins it, but I don't think the football will be quite as exhilarating. But yeah, still super duper excited.
Yeah, how could you not be? This is the best time of year to be a football fan, and everything on the line. Huge implications. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. If you made it to this point, do us a favor and drop a like on the video. And if you're enjoying what you're hearing, hit the subscribe button to get all sports-related content from 91 Network. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we prepare to close out tonight's program, we want to say the biggest thank you to each of you for tuning in. Gee, great work tonight, my friend. This has been a great deal of fun.
Absolutely. Well done to you as well. I'd like, again, to apologize to anyone watching this that my camera looks awful. Hopefully for the next episode will be all good. But yeah, a phenomenal way to spend a Saturday afternoon with you. Very excited about everything football related going on right now. So yeah, thank you again for having me, and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, most definitely, my friend. It's always a great time being together, and we appreciate everyone who's tuned in, and we get to do it again oh so soon. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of April 27th, 2026. In that show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the FA Cup, and local soccer. As always, we will keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, share, and subscribe to all platforms of 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Podbean, and Spaces at suitoday.com. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Full Time Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.